Hey guys, welcome back to another Vanguard video. Today we're talking about the Tuesday livestream. There's actually not too much to talk about, but the most exciting reveal we got that they added before the livestream even aired is that we got a brand new lyrical booster for DivineZ. It's actually the second one. So we have DZ-LBT02, that is the code, A Scatterbrained Christmas, coming out in November 7th in JP. So we'll likely get it around after Christmas, usually around January or December is when we usually get these sets, just kind of guesstimating. And then we also have brand new dress-up units for Fenelle, Charmout, and Siana. Definitely some of the most popular ones on the poster child. There usually are more, so we'll kind of have to wait and see what else gets revealed. And then we have two brand new ridelines, including BlaZ, Foria, and SweetLinker Frati. I don't know how these names are gonna go. I think the BlaZ is because it's not RaiZ, BlaZ, like Flamgram, but you know, these lyrical names always get me. But yeah, really exciting to see that we have some new information finally, because really all we've had is like main set lyrical and random generics and festival and whatnot. So thankfully lyrical mains can finally celebrate that they have some news for set 2. So do let me know if you're excited to get these in English and which ones you'll be playing based on the art, or you know, which ones are your favorite units that you hope will get dress ups, because we basically know what wave of other characters are going to be getting it based off the poster child units that we got that are going to be getting new dress up units, and hopefully they'll have the ability to have the same name and of course have much better Vanguard skills. So the rest of the cards to get through are from the Akina vs Megami fight, and they're kind of underwhelming to be honest. First off, we have Impervious Dragon, which is Rezael support. It's a double rare. So auto, when it's placed on rearguard circle or put on guardian circle, you choose a grade 3 card with Rezael in its card name from your ride deck. If you reveal the card, or you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Rezael, you perform one of the following according to the circle that it's on. Rearguard circle gets plus 5k until end of turn. If this unit was placed by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Rezael in its card name, gets plus 10k instead of plus 5. Then on guardian circle, the shield gets plus 5 until end of battle. Then if it intercepted, it gets shield plus 10 instead of plus 5. So kind of an interesting card. Not too sure if you actually have space to play this. I do really like that it does get the plus 5 before you ride up to grade 3. So you can easily make like 23k columns if you have an 8k booster, which is really nice. I don't really like that it is just kind of a 15k shield, and Impervious is kind of just, you know, his name kind of implies that he should have done more, honestly, when I saw it in the anime. So I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest. I wish it did do a little bit more. It's honestly not a terrible card. Really nice again that it works early, like 10k shield, you know, 15k beater early is really nice. But you do just, you know, have very little space in terms of grade 2, because you do want to play the Mythics, you want to play Nilbris. In English, we do still have Dog, but JP kind of swapped things to put in like Cerrgaeon, you know, Dissection Angel, kind of just generics to help you get through cards early. So your grade 2 slots are really limited, and of course you still have to play main deck Rezaels as well as Gabwelius. So I'm not too sure personally how to feel about this card. I'll probably maybe playtest it on CFA 2 or something, or maybe proxy playtest it, but it is a pretty underwhelming card. Though it is really nice that when it intercepts, it is a 15k shield. Just kind of wish it had like resist or anti-retire or something, because you know his name is literally Impervious Dragon, but he's not like impervious to anything. So that's kind of funny. Like if he gets retired or something, you're never going to be able to intercept with him or binded, whatever. So yeah, that's kind of just my expectations for the card. But you know, it's still a pretty decent card overall. Very simple. Doesn't use any energy, soul blast, or counter blast. So he does have that utility there. The next card is Knight of Clarity Genetile, and this is kind of like a throwaway card. Auto, when it's retired from rearguard circle during your battle phase, so basically when he's called over. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Rezael in its card name, you call Soul Blast 1, choose 2 units, they get plus 5 cancel on a turn. You're not really playing this because you have the old grade 1 that can Soul Blast 1 to give plus 5 to front row, and you just have better grade 2s that you could be playing, and there isn't really too much space in the deck if you're playing Order Package or Veltrosa, whatever. So honestly, not really needed. So the next card to talk about is Sylvan Horn Beast Cheile. So auto, when it's placed on rearguard circle from hand or placed on rearguard circle by ability of your Corporal Sylvan Horn Beast in its card name, because a lot of them call from deck or drop. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Magnolia in its card name, you cost Soul Blast 1, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with Magnolia in its card name from among them, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle the deck. So you can grab Magmask, Elder, or Patriarch. Continues rearguard circle. If you have a grade 3 Vanguard with Magnolia in its card name, your Persona Ride also increases the power of your back row units. So a lot of people noted this to being a powercrept version of Seroll, but Seroll does work earlier. This you have to be on the grade 3 Vanguard, but Check Top 7 is a lot more consistent than Check Top 5, and if you really have to, you can play both. It's just that their continuous rearguard circle for the back row buff basically won't stack, so you only really need one of them to get that double Persona Ride for the front row and back row. But really, Cheile looks a little bit more consistent. They're basically the same cost. They're both Soul Blast 1. You know, if you're playing Mag Mask, you probably still want Seroll So the main differences between this card and Seroll is that Seroll can be placed from deck, so you could call it up Habitat or any other cards. With Cathair, you kind of just have to keep it in hand and, you know, really just find it early. But if you do draw it, you can always just ditch it to drop and then revive it back through another skill. So honestly, it's not too big of a difference. I think Seroll's just easier to slam down a rush early with because he's a grade 1. But again, he's only check top 5 instead of check top 7. And then, you know, Cathair is only really going to be working until you're on a grade 3 Vanguard. And then you're going to be slamming this because otherwise, you know, it won't proc because you won't be able to pay the cost because you're not on a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Magnolia. So I do think it is a pretty good card. You could play both if you really want that consistency to always find your Persona rides, because I do think when Magnolia misses its Persona rides, or especially when Mag Mask cannot find Mag Mask, it is really, really painful, and your consistency definitely takes a hit. Of course, it's very hard to like whiff all those check tops for grade 3s and to find Mask of Hydreigon. You know, it can happen. You can sometimes not find your Wretch and whatnot. So still very nice that this is also technically support for Elder as well. You know, of course, you're never really going to use that second skill for the cons, you know, to give the Persona right to back row, but it is nice that it is another check top if you did want to play like the Fairy Elder combo, where you kind of blind take second, Soul Blast out your grade 2 ride line, and then just CB1 go into Elder and just, you know, have fun doing basically 5 swings and being on your grade 4 immediately if you went second. The other card is kind of throwaway as well. You have Sylvan, Hornbeast, Tepar. Not too sure if you really play this. It only has anti-retire, so it continues Rearguard Circle and Guardian Circle if you have Vanguard with Sylvan, Hornbeast, so it will be active early at least. In its card name, this unit cannot be retired by opponent's card effects, and it gets shield +5 active on opponent's turn 2. So, you know, 10k shield is active if you're playing the Sylvan, you know, Horde Beast ride line. Then auto Rearguard Circle once per turn. When your other unit attacks from the back row, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 greater, you cost Soul Blast 1 and gets +10k at the end of turn. So when you go second, it will hit over a defensive, you know, any +5s and whatever else, you know, giving it power, it'll hit over a defensive. Unfortunately, it does only work when you know, attack a grade 3 greater Vanguard, so basically you have to go second. So it's kind of a little bit awkward, but I do like that there's a little bit more utility and defensiveness. So Magnolia just has a lot of extra shield between this, you know, the fruit, and a lot of 10k shield in kind of increments to make guarding a little bit less awkward, so you can reach like 33, 43 for swings that aren't hitting those magic numbers. So at least in that sense, it's nice to have as a defensive utility, but I think Magnolia in general just doesn't really have the space for this. Patriarch, I think, still wants their big beaters that just get +10k for no reason. And, you know, you also have other cards like the Inlet and whatnot to basically keep your hand and, you know, rebuild your board as well. Alright, so the last cards to talk about are a Krsyrain card. So we have Snowflake of Deep Sea Ephemer. The first skill is technically generic. You have auto Rearguard Circle once per turn. When your other rearguard is returned to hand during your turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Mermaid, choose one unit that gets +5 until end of turn. So you can choose Vanguard because of this, or Rearguard because it specifies unit. So technically Kairi could play this, but Kairi can't use the second effect, which is auto when it's returned to hand from Rearguard Circle. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Krsyrain in its card name, you put a card with a different card name from this card from hand. It's soul and draw card. So, you know, if this is bounced off, you know, mostly divine skill, but, you know, if it's also bounced by any other generics such as Franchette, Yuika, you get to use that skill off, and it's really nice because on your divine skill turn, you know, since you're bouncing 5 public units back to hand and they're basically all 5k shields, unless, you know, you're playing one that's a 10k shield, you know, you being able to cycle one of those 5k shields and draw to potentially a 15k shield or a PG is really nice. So I do think Krsyrain will play this. It's honestly pretty decent for a double rare compared to the other double rares we have in this set. So I think you'll probably want to fit maybe 2 or 3, but Krsyrain's space is really tight, you know, between all the generics, between the restander, and I believe they also got another card in set 7 or 8 that I'm forgetting about as well that was also really, really good. But yeah, the core Krsyrain is definitely there, and of course they always have high 5 as well. I think pinning high 5 is probably the hardest thing, or mostly making space for this card is the hardest thing. I mean, like high 5 is easily just a really, really good card in Krsyrain because it's just free. Same for Lishkafel, of course, but yeah, not too much really to say, just really nice cycle. You're getting extra soul, and you're basically able to cycle like a 5k or 0 shield from your hand to get something new and basically keep living. Alright, so the last card to talk about is also kind of throwaway. We have Peaceable Lunchtime Placey. Continues Rearguard Circle. If you're grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Krsyrain in its card name, it gets boost, and it's a grade 2, doesn't gain any additional power. You know, unfortunately, this card is just kind of throwaway because you could just be playing Yuika, and Yuika is just a 13k booster, and of course also has that early utility to just Soul Blast bounce whatever early back to your hand that it was boosting. So honestly, not too much to talk about this week. We do have Token Rambu this week and the week after. And by the way, this week we're also getting the strategy presentation for English, which will hopefully include a ban list. I don't want to get my hopes up for that, but we should be getting a regular list as well as maybe future, you know, events, as well as potentially the circuit for next year, or at least going into, you know, 2025 to 2026. So we'll see what the news is there. I'll probably make either a short on that or make a full video on that for Thursday, but the live stream is basically Friday because it's like Singapore time. Like my time, it's basically like midnight on the Friday. So we'll see how it turns out and what the news is there. So I'll either make the news about make a video about the news on Tuesday, or just kind of make its own throwaway short, and I'll just like make a community post or something about it for people who care about that kind of news. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I kind of stumbled a bit with the names. Like, my gosh, these lyrical names and the mag card like definitely got to me. Honestly, not the craziest thing in the world, but it's nice that I think the winners here are basically Krsyrain. I do think the Rezael card having no cost is nice, but it is a very simplistic card that isn't really changing much of how the deck is playing at all. I think the mag card is a good upgrade in terms of consistency. Check top 7 over top 5 is nice, but it's not really changing any of the weaknesses or strengths of the deck really. It still kind of has the same problem, or really giving it more resources either. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what your favorite reveals were for this week. Definitely, probably for me, would be the Rezael card and the new reveal, the DressUp units, because I know Siana and Fenelle, of course Charmout too, are very, very, very popular. And of course, that basically projects to us the rest of the other units that will get DressUp units. But I'll wait until we get actual art for them. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you later in another video.